We know you're trying to open the gates of hell, but we won't back down. So yes, we'll stand our ground. We won't be pushed around. We must keep you from putting our kids in the ground, so we can't stand down. No, we won't back down. We won't back down, baby. There ain't no easy way out. We can't stand down, brother. So we'll stand our ground. And no, we won't back down. 'Cause we know what's right. And we got plenty of fight. And if you think you're gonna keep pushing us around, well, you'll lose that crown. 'Cause we won't back down. We won't back down, baby. There ain't no easy way out. We can't back down, brother. We've gotta stand our ground. And no, we won't back down. You know, it's pretty clear that these lunatics think they have the right to strip us of our rights of self-defense. And if they're willing to do that, what else are they willing to do? We won't back down, baby. There ain't no easy way out. We can't back down, brother. No, we won't back down. Back down, baby. There ain't no easy way out. We can't back down, brother. We've gotta stand our ground, so we won't back down. No, we won't back down. Virginians, you won't fight this fight alone.
Good evening, everyone. Happy Sunday. I hope you survived the storms that blew through. If they were in your area, the Richmond area got hit pretty hard. Welcome, and thank you for joining us on this Sunday evening. I'm here with Philip Van Cleve. Jill couldn't join us tonight, but we have a lot of stuff to talk about, don't we, Philip?
Yeah, we do. And I noticed that we have somebody signing in from San Antonio. That was my old stomping ground prior to 1980. At Pack Rat's Attic. So yeah, we got while Bill checking in. Lots of people I recognize. Good. Yeah, we've got a lot going on. There never seems to be much of a break anymore. Yeah.
We were talking about we couldn't wait for summertime when it was slowed down and we could get some things done, right?
Yeah. You know, it's a curse because years ago, Jim Snyder, our vice president, had suggested, July, August, September, why don't we just kind of shut VCDL down? It's quiet during those times. Legislative season is over, and nothing. Ever since he said that, that was it. There has never been a break ever since. It was some curse that he put on us. So and it's worse right now than ever. But there's some good stuff going on, and not so good stuff. But there's a lot of reasons to be confident in some of these things that we got rolling here. So go ahead, Pat.
Do you want to start out with some good news? The court case out of Texas VCDL GOA court case against Engage in the Business.
Yes, that's a win, and that struck it down. That the Engage in the Business, for those of you that maybe have missed that one, a few years ago, under Biden, the ATF came up with this idea that, well, if you sell even one gun and you make a profit, we might think you're engaged in the business. And if you don't have a license, we can do some serious damage to you. Or if you list a gun, let's say on Gun Broker, it doesn't sell, but you listed it, you might be engaged in the business. I mean, it was really draconian, underhanded BS.
If you kept your receipts, that proved that you were intending to make a profit.
Yeah, yeah.
Never mind keeping the serial number in case something happens and but
So VCDL GOA sued, and then about a little while later we got a stay on the law. It was put on hold for VCDL and GOA and any of the other plaintiffs only. So if you weren't a VCDL member or a GOA member, it didn't protect you. What just happened a couple days ago strikes that whole thing down completely. So it applies to everybody. It's gone, and it's not going to be resurrected. So this engaged in the businesses, but that was a battle that VCDL was a part of. We didn't do it by ourselves by any means, but we were part of the team that took on the ATF and beat them. So that's a big deal. Another piece of good news is we're now at 16 Commonwealth attorneys who are saying not going to enforce this unconstitutional assault weapon ban and assault weapon carry prohibitions. Not going to do it. And so at 16, that was Lynchburg. Commonwealth attorney was the most recent one to step in. And I expect we're going to see more. We have a map that I put up on X and is on it's on our social media. I don't think we have it on the website, do we, Pat?
I don't think so, but we can get it up there.
Probably should at some point, yeah, as it continues to grow. But the map just gives you a visual of what parts of the state that we have Commonwealth attorneys standing up for the Constitution, standing up for their oath, and standing with the great people of Virginia. So we've got 16. Now, I do know that there are some out there that aren't going to enforce this. They're just not talking about it. I've heard through grapevines, but see, I can't put their name on something unless it's official. I've got to see something in writing. Either it can be a newspaper story where they told the newspaper they weren't going to enforce. Could be a letter to VCDL. Could be a letter to the general public or their constituents. Could be a letter to the sheriff or the chief of police. Any of those things count. So I'm hoping we'll get more in there. I know there's one other county that has told her constituents she's not doing this, but there's nothing I could link to or show, just an email. And that's like hearsay as far as I'm concerned. So we'll see what happens with that.
Some kind of public statement is needed. GS Bomber says, but there's no practical effect of these Commonwealth attorneys, and other 30 counties are doing nothing, and the AWB will be in place and no action in the courts. So
okay, you want to take that one on?
Yeah, we've actually filed a petition for mandamus to force a hearing. You can talk about that, to force a hearing on the injunction.
Basically, as you may know, the court that we were going to hear, that was supposed to hear our request for an injunction, basically canceled the meeting, and we filed a writ of mandamus with the Supreme Court, basically to tell them, do your job. Either put the stay on the law, or don't just do something. And if the judge doesn't want to, then we've asked the Supreme Court to go ahead and just look at our request for a stay on the assault weapon ban and do it. But Lancaster County judge, we're hoping he'll change his mind, but we're going to have to do a writ of mandamus. It's unfortunate, but there was no good reason for him to postpone our case at all. we're up against the
Right.
time. We're up against July 1. So, and also these localities that are doing that, remember, it's not just buying assault firearms, it's selling them. So if you're in one of these counties where they're saying this thing's unconstitutional, that means you could sell, an assault firearm to somebody in that county or buy one from them in a private transaction. And that's one of the things that would have been prohibited under the law that they're saying is unconstitutional. Um, they also, most of them are covering the carry. So if you had in your car within reach a loaded AR-15, or even if it wasn't loaded, but right there near you, that would be fine in their localities. It's always been fine in Virginia, but um, so there is an absolute effect to this uh, because there's more to the law than just being able to buy these things. And also, same thing with magazines. If in those localities you could give a magazine to somebody or buy one from them, and they aren't going to prosecute it because it's unconstitutional.
So, a couple of questions we've gotten here. Pack Rats Addicts has asked if the DOJ has filed anything yet. It's my understanding they're filing on the 1st of July.
Well, I believe they're going to file early July. I don't know if it'll be on the first. It might be. Maybe you've heard something I didn't. But we believe the reason they're going to wait till July is they're coming from a different angle than all the gun rights organizations are coming from. We've got some differences between the four lawsuits that we've got in Virginia against the assault weapon ban. And there are definite differences there, but the government, the DOJ, is going to come from yet a different angle, we believe. And if so, they're going to wait until the law is enforceable. When you could be arrested or charged, that's when they're going to step in. And that July 1 is when that becomes effective. Whether they'll file right on July 1 or they'll wait a week or whatever, I don't know. But that's what we expect them to come in.
And
So,
that'll probably be in federal court, I'm assuming.
oh, yes, yes, it
And
will.
so
And,
we're in state court, so it's and we're filing on the Virginia Constitution grounds, not the federal Constitution. Joshua Jennings is on here. He's an FFL in Virginia and a strong supporter of VCDL. He's helped set up meetings down in the Southern Virginia area, and he said he's asking if there's anything being done to ensure that the State Police Firearms Transaction Center is fully staffed between now and the end of the month. And he said that Friday evening between 6 and 10 there was only one employee. I find that astonishing, but yeah,
well,
delays are taking longer and longer. If you have stuff that you're trying to pick up and you're picking up on Friday, get there early because delays, if you're delayed, it could take a while. And if the delay doesn't go to approval before that business closes on Friday, you're not getting your gun if it's one of the banned ones. So,
this is not the time to dilly dally, as one would say.
right.
Um, most now there are a couple stores that are talking about having a lot of sales on the 27th, which is a Saturday, um, and the law goes in effect Wednesday, July 1, and those stores like XCal are they doing a deal with Palmetto State Armory, where Palmetto's bringing in like two large shipments of ARs to be sold on the spot because there's no time necessarily waiting for a shipment to come in because you have to have possession by June 30th, by that Tuesday. Otherwise, it's a no-go. So they're bringing in two pallets full of AR-15s, and there are other stores, and we'll be happy to list the other stores that have similar arrangements, um, so that people know where they can get these at the last minute. Same thing with magazines. The magazine is probably less of an issue than the ARs, and to show how these people that make the laws don't really understand what they're doing. Salim, who's the guy, one of the guys that passed his bill, was the Senate assault weapon ban bill. He said, well, these laws are really meant to go after bad guys doing stuff. He said, if you go to North Carolina and buy an assault firearm, how are they supposed to know here that you did that? See, this just shows that he doesn't understand how the laws work. If you go to a dealer in North Carolina or any other state to buy an AR, they're going to check Virginia law and see if you're allowed to have one of those in Virginia. If the answer is no, they won't sell it to you, even though they're in a state that doesn't care. But that's how this works. So it won't help you to go out of state unless you did a private sale with somebody.
Right.
That would be it. But again, Celine, then you've got Helmer, who did the House version of that bill, rattling his saber. He loves to rattle his saber. And oh yeah, we absolutely will be enforcing this against everybody and so forth. That guy. They're both clowns, but Helmer's in a clown class of his own. I'm sorry, but that's where we are with that stuff.
There were a couple of other questions. Let me find out here. Somebody asked, has any state court ever overturned an assault weapon ban? I don't know.
I can't think of it. Well,
I
no, I think California at one time maybe did, but then it got reversed higher up. I want to say that they did at one point have it.
I think there may have been a couple that did that, and then it got reversed in a higher up court. It got
because they went to the Ninth Circuit, which is almost as bad as our Fourth Circuit.
Right.
But they even overturned a magazine ban temporarily. I remember it was like 2 or 3 days it was overturned, and people from California were buying larger capacity magazines like mad. It was a huge influx of those, and then the higher court overturned it, so the spigot got shut off. But a whole bunch of new magazines got into California during that time. These idiots that pass these laws, they think that it's Helmer that said, well, over time we'll eventually get rid of these guns, referring to assault firearms. We'll get rid of them over time. He doesn't get it. We're talking Americans here. I mean, I know he's an American. I just don't know. I guess he's from New Jersey, but there are people in New Jersey that understand the law and Second Amendment. But this is human nature. Right. You're telling a state that's historically very free and that has had a long tradition of firearm ownership and of freedom. You're telling them they can't buy an assault firearm after a certain date. You're going to do what's happening. You're going to flood these things. And when we get this stuff overturned, even if it's temporary, there'll be another flood coming in if it's not permanent yet. So I do expect they're going to lose this. They're going to lose. It's just a matter of when. And because that could drag on, that's why we're telling people, if you want something, get it now. You want that magazine that'll hold more than 15 rounds, buy it now. Go ahead and get it. If it turns out we get a stay or we knock this thing down and never goes into effect, oh well. But it's an insurance policy. You're just hedging your bets in case this takes longer than we might hope.
So Ron Hilton is asking, is there a distinction between sheriffs and Commonwealth attorneys as far as cooperation in prosecuting these new laws? And do we have counties that have mixed commitments?
We do, at least somewhere where the sheriff has said that he's not going to arrest, and then the Commonwealth attorney didn't say that he was going to not prosecute. But the point is, that works. Because if the sheriff's not arresting anybody, then the prosecutor's got nobody to prosecute. You see,
ideally both would step up, but all it takes is one or the other.
Exactly. Either way, that's enough to stop. And believe me, it's really gotten under the skin of Helmer and Salim and all these tyrants that just wanted to shove this at us and make us have to live with it. And they're finding out it's not that easy. They're finding out that there's strong resistance, even from the government. And like I say, wait till the DOJ steps in. It's going to get even spicier, I think. So they picked a bad state to do this in. We're not solid blue. We're purple. And actually, again, if you look at the Virginia from a satellite, we're mostly red. We got our little blobs of blue around, but the state is mostly painted red. And this wasn't a good state to do this in. Not only is VCDL here, and VCDL is indeed one of the powerhouses on the state level, but they've got the NRA and the GOA headquarters in Virginia. What do
Hmm.
they think is going to happen when you pass something like this? You know, and then the FPC is stepping in, and Second Amendment Foundation. They've bitten off more than they can chew, and we need to make sure they choke on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So another person asked about standing. So yes, you do have to have standing to be able to be a plaintiff in the case. But VCDL, with its membership, has established standing, VCDF and GOA, and we have John
John
Crump.
Crump.
Yes. So,
Yes.
so he's a
So
Virginia resident.
so even if VCDL and GOA did get knocked out on standing, John Crump is there, and they're not going to be able to knock him out like that. But they're going to try. That's always the first chicken way out for like the state. Oh, well, you don't have standing, so they do that, especially if they don't want to argue the merits of the case. They just want you knocked out on a technicality, so that because they know they're not going to win this. In the end, they're not going to win this, so they're doing whatever trick they can pull to try to derail, to slow down what's going on. It's disgusting. This is not government's our servant. These guys are our servants. They're here to make sure that our lives run smoothly from a high level, making sure we have the things necessary for a state to run. They're not here to be our father and mother, but that seems to be what Salim and Helmer want to be. So
So we also have a question, and I've been getting this a lot at work. Jimmy Ray asked, what about the ATF's Form 1s? And if we don't get it approved before July 1st, then are we prevented from taking possession? So if the firearm is already in a prohibited configuration, in other words, if it's an AR pistol already, and you Form 1 it, then as far as I can tell reading it, it is grandfathered in. However, if you are creating a new item, there is no exemption for NFA items in this legislation. So you would not be able to take a lower and build an SBR and Form 1 it and have the Form 1 come back after July 1st and put it together. It would have to already have been configured as something that is grandfathered in.
and for those of you that have maybe an unfinished lower where you haven't put in the trigger and all that stuff, we strongly suggest go ahead and get that thing into a assault firearm configuration. Doesn't take much. You don't have to complete the whole thing, but you have to have it so it's in that form if you want to buy uppers and things of that nature after July 1. Because if it's already an assault firearm, buying another upper or whatever isn't going to change that status, so that's fine. And you might buy an upper for a bolt action AR or a lever action or a pump action. So those things are to continue to be available.
And the law does not prohibit you from buying a lower or an upper or a threaded barrel or any of the components. It just prohibits you buying the complete firearm with the features listed. So it specifically says rifle or shotgun or pistol.
Yeah, but you can't manufacture it after, so that's why you have to
Correct.
have it in place. You can't buy those components after July 1 and put it together for the first time as an assault firearm. That won't work. That's manufacturing. So that's why you want to have your guns already configured either as an AR pistol or an AR rifle or an AK pistol, AK rifle, etc. There are, several things, several brands of guns and models that fall
Right.
into that.
So Derek 3154 is asking what happens to NFA items when they are banned. So if you own it and you have possession of it prior to the 1st of July, then you're grandfathered in. You would not be able to create a new short-barreled shotgun, short-barreled rifle after the 1st of July because they would fall within, the SBS might not fall within the definition, but the SBR most probably would. So you can't create a new one, but you can keep what you already have. And then there are also limitations on selling it, who you can sell it to, and so on and so forth.
Right. You can sell to a dealer or out of state if that person can legally have it.
Right.
But that would have to go through a dealer in their state at least, wouldn't it, Pat?
It would. So you would have to form for it to a dealer in that other state who would then form for it to the purchaser in that state.
But you can't bring anything in the reverse. And another thing that Pat had brought up, and it may not apply to many of you out there, but there have been a few people that learned the hard way that one handgun a month is still the law in Virginia unless you have a concealed handgun permit. She had a few people come in that didn't have a permit, forgot about one handgun a month, and wanted to buy 2 AR pistols. Like, no can do. Well, what you can do, she gave the form, and then they can go to the state police. Supposedly it takes a day or two, and they give you something good for 5 days, where now you can go for 5 days and buy more than one handgun. But the clock's ticking, so if you don't have a permit and you want to buy more than one, you need to get that form and get your tail down to the state police and get that paperwork done so that you can buy them. If you got a permit, you don't have to worry. A concealed handgun permit, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, and there was something else that I saw up there. Yes, so Josh Jennings pointed out that if the firearm is not a semi-automatic, then it doesn't get caught up in this new law.
Absolutely.
So,
yes.
That's an important distinction. One thing also to keep into account with the magazine ban is that the magazine ban is not limited to center fire. It also covers rimfire. So those 25 round mags for your Ruger 1022, get them now.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
Yep, get them now.
And we've had some questions about HB 1525 with the prohibition of the 18, 19, and 20-year-olds.
Yeah, that's something that is very much in the air. But that's what, excuse me, that's what I think ultimately was behind universal background checks getting struck down. In other words, the state police said, "Oh, we can start doing them again," and the attorney general and the judge said, "No, you can't." And I think the part of that is because they didn't solve the problem. You cannot tell 18, 19, and 20-year-olds they cannot buy a handgun or a semi-automatic rifle that's configured a certain way. They constitutionally that's a problem. Heck, the unorganized militia, they expect people to be 16-year-old to be able to be in that. You can't do it if you can't buy a gun. So I think ultimately that's going to get settled. We're just going to have to see how the dust comes down after a while on that one. Right now, our focus is on the assault firearm ban and the carry of assault firearms. We consider that the biggest threat. And then from there, we will go after other things. But first, we want to get on board and get that ball rolling. There's other things we need to come back for: the magazine ban and hospital ban. A hospital is not a sensitive government building. That got knocked down. I think New York tried to do that and it got knocked down. So we got plenty of things that we'll be working on. We're just trying to do them in what we consider to be the higher priority order.
So I got a couple things here. First off, let me bounce up to Josh Jennings here. He commented that the local barracks of the state police were not handling multiple pistol purchase forms, and that it was only the Midlothian office, from what he's been told. I have not spoken to them about that, so I can't verify it.
That's the headquarters, right, or not?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's the headquarters. So you can fax it in. You have to notarize it. So I don't know how they return the letter to you. Hopefully not through the mail. And then, oh, I'm going to butcher that name, Cherry O'Connell. I missed the last of that, Cherry. Should I put my heir in a gun trust for my adult son to transfer ownership to my adult son legally after I pass away? That is an option. The current law allows for you to gift to an immediate family member. So, mother, father, daughter, son, grandparent, grandchild, or sibling. So you can still gift. That was generous of them. You can still gift to those people. But you can't give it to your best buddy or your cousin or anything like that. So, but putting things in a trust, then the trustees are able to have them. And I think John Pierce did talk about that 2 months ago
yeah.
when we had John and Gilbert on.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
if you want to go back to the live from 2 months ago and look at that we talked quite a bit about it. And then Bill Plunkett asked, what's the status of your injunction? So do you want to talk about that, and then the one
Yeah.
that's hopefully coming up Wednesday?
Yeah. Also, I wanted to mention we talked about ARs within the family. Magazines that hold more than 16, 15 rounds cannot be transferred to anybody. They're yours, and you cannot give them to your kids. Now, one thing about magazines, an important point is you can own a magazine at any age. It's just a piece of plastic and a spring, you know? So if you've got children that may not have turned 18 by the you know, or before this law is repealed, buy them their magazines now. Give them, you know, buy their magazines, make them their magazine, buy it for them. They can hang on to them, or you can hang on to them, whatever, as long as it's theirs before July 1. Doesn't matter how old they are. When they turn 18, they can legally have those. So that's the trick there. Now, as far as when we're talking about the assault, so our injunction is currently, we mentioned this earlier, we're waiting on a writ of mandamus to get the judge in Lancaster to go ahead and make a motion on what, or approve our motion for a stay or disapprove it, do whatever, but do something. Don't just stop. So that's in progress there. Now there are two other cases that the judge did not cancel their hearing yet. We hopefully the hearings will go through. There's four lawsuits in total. Ours is it was the first one that had a court date, and our judge canceled because of a motion by Jay Jones to consolidate the four into one case and have it. He's probably hoping it'll be in Richmond. You know, just like give it to a court that's gonna just give him what he wants and then kill all four cases basically at the same
Right.
time.
And
But
that's where he asked for it to be, by the way.
yeah, so our judge in Lancaster said, "Well, let's just wait and see how this pans out." Well, nothing's happened. They've not met. They've not done anything. They don't have. They can meet whenever they want. They could wait till next year if they wanted to. There's no time frame on that three-judge panel from the set up by the Supreme Court to meet. They don't have to do an action at all. They could do an action. They could consolidate two cases, no cases, all cases. We just don't know any of that. But the judges are not required legally to stop everything while he waits to see what this three judge panel does. No, life goes on. The motions can continue, and they should. So we're trying to get our judge to do it, but we've got the judge in Spotsylvania and Washington County. Both of those cases are still coming up. and the court dates are still there. They have not been canceled. Now, could they be canceled before they meet? Yes, it's possible, but it's also possible they won't. So, again, this is the beauty of having four different lawsuits going in different courts, slightly different angles. This is why Jay Jones is has to keep changing his underwear because we were doing this stuff and he's having to figure out how to try to stop us. But we're not. This is great. I love seeing this come together. I love seeing all these organizations coming in for the common good of the great people of Virginia.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Angela, I haven't talked to her in a while. We'll have a new sheriff and Commonwealth attorney this year, and it's going to be very busy summer. Hopefully the sheriff and Commonwealth attorney will get on board with not supporting these unconstitutional bans.
Yes, absolutely. And Angela is on the VCDL PAC, and she's also down in the Christiansburg area, very active down there. So.
Yeah, Frederick County needs to join. I see that brick by brick vets. Brick by brick vets is what I'm supposed to say that. I think I'm going to probably do something on that this week. He's one that signed on to consolidating the four cases. He was one of two Republicans that signed on to that. The other one was in York County. And that's not good. So we need to be contacting your Frederick County Commonwealth attorney about that. He should definitely be hearing from everybody saying, "Why did you do that? Get on, take your name off of that. You don't need to be working with Jay Jones to undermine the Constitution." So anyhow, that's where we stand there. Now, whether he'll get off and also while he's at it, in fact, the perfect thing would be for him to get off in the same breath, say, I think this stuff's unconstitutional anyhow. I'm not gonna enforce it. That would be the way for him to go. But we'll see. All right. Until there's this is GS Bomber. Until there is a circuit split, such as Third Circuit rules on their pending hardware ban case, SCOTUS will not rule on the current hardware ban cases in front of them. So I hate to sound pessimistic. All right, well, a couple thoughts on that. Number one, the Third Circuit we're sort of expecting them to rule on this any time. But keep in mind, you're forgetting one other thing. We've got the Department of Justice going to step in, we think in July, early July. And of course, that's going to go to the that's going to go to the Supreme Court. But it's different when the Department of Justice goes to the Supreme Court and says, we would like you to take up this issue. We've seen that work before, where the Supreme Court gives deference to the federal government if it's asking specifically to get some cases heard. So don't underestimate what Harmeet Dillon could do as we hear that train rolling through Beaver Dam.
Sorry about that.
That's how the word dam got in Beaver Dam, that train going by every time you're on the phone.
Yes. So Jimmy Ray's asking, do you really think the Department of Justice will take this up and help us out?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not losing any sleep over it. They're gonna step in, I'm convinced. Absolutely.
They have put the state on notice, so.
They have, and we think, again, they're waiting. A lot of people have been panicking because they didn't step in right away. Like I say, they're coming from a different angle. They're coming from Virginia. Now that you're enforcing this, you cannot enforce this, and we're going to sue you over it if we're attempting to do so. That's the angle we believe they're coming from. And if so, we have to wait till July 1. As Pat mentioned earlier, right now, nothing's in effect. You can buy and sell ARs and magazines that hold 1 million rounds if you want. You're all good. But July 1 is when I think DOJ is going to step in.
So Rich is asking, I'm assuming it's about the delays on the background checks. And so a little bit of what's going on there. One, they have a finite amount of people working at the state police. And they have a exponential increase in the purchasing, especially as we get closer and closer to the end of the month, and therefore they're going to have more delays. So I've noticed that the computer is taking longer to even process the automatic approval. So when something goes into the computer, we as a dealer, we type it into the system and we submit it, and in normal times an approval would come back within a second, 2 seconds. It would just automatically pop up. Now I'm seeing them say submitted for 5 minutes, up to about 5, maybe even a little more than 5 minutes, because the computer is bogging down. If it goes into a delayed status, then a human being has to look at it. So it just depends on how many people they have on staff at that moment and how many delays they have at that moment. And I am assuming that they didn't hire extra people just for a month or two, although they probably have some people working overtime down there. That's conjecture on my part. But it's also getting to the summer vacation season, and so you have a perfect storm there that is causing delays to take longer. So again, I will stress, don't wait till an hour before the store closes on June 30th to go down and pick up the item that you must take possession of on June 30th, because if you get delayed, you will not get that item.
Yeah, and there's multiple reasons to do this early. Number one, some of the dealers are in a position where they've got inventory that they're probably going to want to be returning, either selling out of state, ARs and so forth, or returning to the manufacturers. I will say that the manufacturers, a lot of them are stepping up to the plate for Virginia. They're specifically giving us priority shipments of their products. Many of them have told dealers, "Oh, it's okay, take what you need, and we'll take back whatever you can't sell by July 1. You go ahead and send it back to us." I mean, that's good stuff. Those companies are doing it. That's outstanding that they're doing that for us.
And
but
then other
still,
ones have said, like RSR sent an email out last week. Friday was the last day they were shipping to Virginia, unless you signed an affidavit that you weren't going to sell it to Virginia residents after the 30th. So because I have an online presence, I can still get the guns, but if I didn't have an online presence, they wouldn't be shipping to me. So we also have a question from Boomy78. Will we be able to carry a pistol that we already own with a threaded barrel, or carry pistols with 17-round magazines that we owned before July 1st?
Yes, absolutely. That's what I'll be doing. Absolutely.
Unless it's an AR pistol.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, correct. And that's a great point, Pat. Like I said earlier, on this stuff, if it's a standard everyday pistol, a Glock, a SIG, any of the standard non-AR, non-AK, non-assault firearm, whatever you have and you're carrying now, you'll be able to continue carrying the same thing right as soon as on July 1. I'm going to be carrying 17-round magazines, if I got 25-round magazines. If I want to, I can carry those. So you're good on your normal handguns, concealed or open. That's nothing's changing for that. Where we're getting hit is new magazines and carrying any kind of assault firearm that in public. You can still transport. Now that's important too. People go, "Well, can I take my AR to the range?" Yes. Can I take my AR to the dealer? Yes. Can I take my AR to my friend's house? Yes. As long as the gun is unloaded and out of reach, preferably like in the trunk or in the far back part of the car, locked up, unloaded with the ammo separate, you're transporting. That's called transporting. Transporting is going to continue to be legal. It's carrying that you can't do. Carrying means that gun is within your wingspan. You can reach it, and it doesn't have to be loaded even. If it's reachable, that's enough to be considered carrying the gun. But yeah, so you'd put the gun in the trunk, transport it wherever you're going, and then take it out. That's so that you can still do that. You just can't have that gun. Like right now, if I wanted to, I could have one of my AR pistols in the car on the front seat, and I could throw something over it because my concealed carry permit covers pistols. So an AR pistol is a pistol, so I can conceal it, and I could also have it loaded. Where a rifle, a lot of localities in the state don't let you do a loaded rifle because of hunting laws, but pistols are exempt. So an AR pistol would be something you could have loaded and concealed using your permit. But July 1, that goes away, and now it's got to be unloaded and locked out of reach, ammo separate, and then you're transporting. And then you're good once you arrive at your location.
So RC Helicopter Videos is asking, will you still be able to buy a suppressor after July 1? Seems like a gray area since we can't attach it to the prohibited items. And there's nothing affecting suppressors right now, only affecting certain items that are threaded to accept a suppressor. But if you already have those items, then you can still buy the suppressors.
Yeah.
And let's see, Ron Hilton had a question here. He says, how and when would you say, okay, show us your records for when you bought those? Is there a realistic scenario? Can't imagine a cop would do that. Seems like it would be a post-crime investigation.
Yeah, that's a real question. Look, the way our legal system is supposed to work is if the government thinks you violated a law, like bought an AR after July 1, it's up to the government to make a case against you, not you to provide information to protect yourself. They have to. It's the duty of the government to make a case and to come up with evidence that you violated state law. Now, would it be handy if you had that information so you could just short circuit something like that? Sure. If you want to do that.
Yeah. I was going to say, if you're arrested, you still you have the arrest record and you have to defend yourself and so on and so forth. Even though the burden of proof is on the state, you still have the expense and the time and everything to defend yourself. So, yeah, it's a bad situation. Let me see. Okay, Smack Your Mama said, can you clear up driving with a loaded and holstered pistol with it's a concealed handgun permit, not a concealed weapon permit in Virginia. So there are certain, it's not a blanket weapon permit, which we need to get that fixed eventually too.
Yeah, we'll have to try again. Used to be.
You do not need a permit to conceal your firearm in your vehicle if it is in a secured container.
Or compartment.
Or compartment, yes.
As long as it's latched, it could be in a glove box.
Yes, it can be in your holster, it can be in your console, so on and so forth. However, there is a law going into effect July 1st that if your firearm is in your vehicle and your vehicle is unattended, now it has to be in a locked container.
Your handgun, not a long gun, handgun.
Okay. Yes.
And however, if you forgot to do that and the gun gets stolen, as long as you report it within 48 hours, they will not charge you for that part of it for not having stored it correctly. They basically want you to make sure you report these things right away if they happen. But you could be charged if, again, am I losing sleep that I'm going to get charged for this? I just think that's remote, but it could happen. So ideally you should be prepared to have a little lockbox that you have in your car. It could be again, just a little box that you slip under the seat or put in the trunk.
Honestly, they're making so many defense-free zones now and forcing people to disarm in order to go to DMV or go into the ABC store. go into a state rest area on the side of the road just to take a break. It just makes sense to have some sort of a secured container in your vehicle for those instances where you're forced into that situation, just because you don't want people to steal your property. And it's sad that we have to be concerned with that, but I would rather take that extra step personally and not have my firearm fall into the wrong hands, if there's something that I can do about it. So
Yeah, and there's a lot of choice now. There's a
right.
lot of companies doing stuff. There's some real clever things. There's one where it looks like a child booster seat. It's
Mm-hmm.
basically flat, and it locks into where the connectors are for the child seat in the car. They got these fixed metal behind the seat that these child seats latch into. Well, this latches into those. So trying to get this thing out of the car would be something tough to do. And this particular one I looked at, it's actually fairly large. You could actually put 2 or 3 handguns in there easily,
Right.
and it
Now,
just doesn't draw attention to itself.
now that being said, I am adamant that we don't need legislation to force people to do the
Agree.
right thing.
Agree.
And Smack Your Mama said, does your trunk count as a locked box?
No, you have to have a locked container inside. Again, the stupidity. None of this stuff makes a lot of sense. They let you, if your glove box has a lock on it, if your console has a lock on it, you can use it. But they didn't throw trunk in there, which has a lock on it. You know.
Right.
So no. So if you're going to put it in the trunk, then you need to have a little lock box in the trunk that you put it in. And of course, some cars do have the ability that they broke a window, they could pop the trunk on the inside. I know one of my cars you could lock it so that thing wouldn't pop the trunk, but the one I have now will let you pop the trunk. I think a lot of them are like that. So it wouldn't hurt to have it locked, secured to the car with a cable of some sort. But you don't have to
And
do that, but
right.
it's probably a good idea to do it that way.
And T-Birder V8 brought up the Form 1 again. Yes, you can Form 1 after July 1. No, you cannot assemble a banned firearm after July 1. So if the thing you're Form 1ing is already grandfathered in, yes, you can Form 1 it. If it is a non-existent that you're building after you get approval on the Form 1, no, you cannot.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. It's all about discouraging people not to carry. It's actually about
Absolutely.
much more than that, though. Ultimately, it's about civilian disarmament.
Mm-hmm.
That's the end game. That's where they're going, and we cannot let them get there. But yes, in the meantime, sure. If you discourage people from carrying, you make people get in the closet. Oh, you're a gun owner. Oh, I don't know. You're a horrible person. I don't want to talk to you. So that it's to drive guns underground.
Mm-hmm.
So you're embarrassed to talk about them. You don't want to admit you got them. You're carrying them concealed because if you show them, people. So that's all part of disengaging the culture, so that then when they come for the guns and try to round them up, there won't be very many people there wishing to stand up against that. So, but you're
Yeah.
right. It's about that, but it's about a much bigger thing than that.
And they're trying to do it on so many levels. So the industry standards of conduct bill, obviously being an FFL, I'm concerned about that, but that is entirely designed to cut off our supply.
Yeah.
You know,
That is being sued, though, at least. That is in court.
yes, yes. The National Shooting Sports Foundation is suing that. So this session and the legislation that was passed in Virginia, it's like Virginia talked to all of the other states that were anti 2A rights and said, hold my beer. We're going to do what you did, 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 and what everybody did, and we're going to see you double. And so the good news is that all of the trade associations and other 2A groups around the country are now jumping in Virginia and this is historic that we have so many
Oh, yeah.
lawsuits filed all at one time.
So I said they bit
So,
off more than they can chew.
hmm
Also, Jay Coburn said no clause. They will try to possess their grandfather next. I think he meant the grandfathering would go away next. That's what they did in Rhode Island. They're trying
right.
to do. I don't think that did that pass. I don't know that it passed yet. I thought it was
I,
still in the
I,
General Assembly
I
there.
thought they dropped it.
Maybe they did.
Yeah.
That would be now you're dancing on the tripwire of the Second Amendment.
hmm
Now you're dancing on the tripwire, and they didn't dare go near that this session. Oh, they would like to do it, but that's you're sitting right by the tripwire. When the government's coming for your guns, that's when you're on the tripwire for the Second Amendment, saying no, you're not. Now one bullet at a time, but that's it. So let's pray that they don't lose their minds and try something like that, because none of us want to go down that road. But the founding fathers would frown upon us if we let them take our guns away.
Yes. And Susan Brush is on here. She's on the
Yeah.
VCDL Board of Directors, and she asked, what's the best place to find the final version of these laws going into effect July 1st? I just put a link in the chat for our website, the page on the legislative changes, and it goes over how the laws will affect you. So share that link with your friends. Share this video with your friends after you. It'll be on YouTube and Facebook. On YouTube, it's on the Live tab. You go to our page, and then there's a tab that says Lives, and you can share it from there. But this is really important information people need to be aware of, because we don't want people having trouble, getting into trouble because they just didn't understand what has changed.
Yeah, a lot of people don't. It really pays to be a member of VCDL, because you don't get this kind of stuff unless you're a member and in tune with this. It's all we got the information, but you lead a horse to water. William Pearson, Wild Bill, was to remind people how to donate to VCDL. Yeah, I ran into Wild Bill there at the Greek festival a few weeks ago here in Richmond. So yeah, you on our website. Because yeah, these lawsuits are incredibly expensive. We just transferred a whole wad of money over to cover what was done a few months ago, much less what's going on at this peak time. And it's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. But this is what it's about. We're not about trying to make a corporation that's full of cash. We're here to protect your rights, and that costs
Right.
money. But we spend it because that's what we're here for. We're here to fight this battle and protect your rights. But we do need money.
This is probably a good time to mention the foundation. If you see
Yes.
that little logo right there behind me is the Virginia Citizens Defense Foundation, which is a 501c3. So if you have an employer that will match your charitable contributions, you can list the Virginia Citizens Defense Foundation and have matching contributions go towards protecting your Second Amendment rights. The foundation supports the lawsuits as well as educating the public. VCDL also funds lawsuits and educates the public and lobbies. The foundation cannot lobby. VCDL lobbies, and then the Political Action Committee, the PAC, helps get better people in office so that we can overturn these dangerous laws that they're passing. Let's see, VCDL.
Yeah,
Yes,
sure.
Ron Hilton is saying VCDL's members often know the law better than law enforcement.
It's true.
Have, yeah, absolutely fabulous members, and
We do.
kudos to all of you for staying informed and for helping get the word out. We had some people on here earlier, I hope they're still on, that were at the Zenith Days where VCDL had a table at their event. We have a gun show coming up this coming weekend, I think, in Virginia Beach, and we have volunteers all over the state that set up booths at even county fairs and local neighborhood festivals, gun shows, various things like that. And we talk to people and tell them about VCDL and get them engaged in protecting their Second Amendment rights.
At one of the gun shows in Richmond, ATF had a table, not the one to run background checks, just to hand out information about, ATF and some of the regulations that they have and so forth, and to educate people. And when somebody would come to them and ask them about Virginia gun laws, they referred them and sent them over to our table. And that was fair enough. I mean, their focus is federal. They really didn't know that much about Virginia's gun laws and the fine tuning of that. So they came to our table, and we had people there that can answer their questions easily. Salem show coming up on June 20th, 21st.
20th, 21st, yeah. And then we have Rich 8804 says, I'm convinced Jay Jones cannot handle all the lawsuits coming at him. I'm wondering who he is consulting. Well, I think we know.
I don't even know how he puts his pants on in the morning, but anyhow, this Bloomberg is. I had a video that I think I put in the last alert that talked about Michael Bloomberg. He is the driving force behind most of this stuff. He tries. He hides behind an organization to make it look like it's grassroots, just sort of just happening spontaneously, these people coming together for gun control. No, he's funding all this stuff. He's a billionaire. He throws millions around like we would throw quarters around. So he can pay for buses to transport people from New York to Virginia, to act like they're from Virginia at the General Assembly. He can do all kinds of stuff like that. It's all fake. It's all AstroTurf. And Jay Jones,
a lot of the bills that were put in when we were sitting in subcommittee and committee, Lori House had to come up and explain what the bill did. The Patriot didn't even know what the bill said.
Yeah, he just knew he had to put it in for Michael Bloomberg. Whatever it does, I'll put it in. Yeah. Yeah, to have somebody explain your bill to the committee is pretty sad.
Absolutely. All right. Any other laws taking effect July 1st that we need to really hit on?
There was hospital ban. Most hospitals already have a no gun sign, but it goes from trespass to a class 1 misdemeanor. Okay. We believe that's unconstitutional. I believe it was in New York that the courts up there said the hospital is not a sensitive government location. Hell, it's not even a government location most of the time. It's private. Most hospitals are private hospitals. The state really has no authority to be stepping in. They can do their own security, as they have been doing. So this is, again, more overstep. We've got a ban in university buildings. That used to be trespass or fired if you worked for the university or expelled if you're a student there. Now it's a class 1 misdemeanor if you carry a gun inside the building. Doesn't address outside the building, but in the buildings. So that's a new law coming up. We talked about storage. Storage at home is another new law. So if you have a minor at home or a prohibited person, then your gun, if it's not on your person, has to be unloaded and locked in a safe. If it's a certain type of a safe, a biometric or one with a code you can punch in, then it can be loaded inside that safe. Now, our attorneys have looked at that in another law that was updated this year. The two actually interact in a way I don't think the General Assembly thought about. And basically, if you give permission to your child under 18 to have access to a firearm, then you don't have to lock your guns up when your child is home, even though they're a minor, as long as you give them permission to have access to firearms. It kind of makes sense. That wasn't what they put in the law directly. That's the interaction of two laws. However, if your child brings over a friend who's a minor, then you got to lock your guns up. Don't have to do anything with your ammo, thank heavens, but you do have to have your guns locked up or on your person. Now, this begs a question. So your son brings over his best friend, and they're in the living room. and you want to clean one of your guns. How do you do that? You'd have to keep it on your person and clean it. How would you do that? That would make a pretty good comedy video. Somebody trying to do that, but ruining all their clothes. But really, there'd be no way to comply with that law, which is the reason I think it's probably going to would get struck down. There are real problems with the practicality of it. That it just they went too far as usual. They went overboard, and so that's a new law coming into effect. What else have we got going on? Um, they expanded red flag laws, so now more people can
Oh
apply
yeah.
for a red flag. They made it a little less clear about police having to investigate to make sure that there really is something that at least would seemingly justify a red flag being filed against somebody. They kind of weakened that a little bit.
They
Um,
also made it so that there's now a training program for school staff and so forth to red flag potentially students, and if they red flag a student, they can confiscate the parents' firearms.
yeah,
So
that sounds like another court case.
it does. Yeah, I
You
mean,
know, guilt by association or what?
we were debating which ones to trying to prioritize which ones to go after first, because you have to not just have the money to fight these, but you have to have the people to fight these. It takes a lot of resources, and our poor attorneys, we have a team of attorneys, they're fabulous, but they've been absolutely working overtime, and poor things are frazzled just like we are. So, they will absolutely do a fabulous job, but it has been all hands on deck since the session ended and these bills started getting signed. And even before that, they were positioning for the laws that we knew that were going to pass. And Steve Black says red flags are 100% unconstitutional. Yes, they violate so many rights that it's absolutely unconstitutional, but they have not been successfully challenged in court yet. And until they are, we are stuck with them. So,
Part of the
and
problem is some of them are short enough to where it's hard to get a case going before the red flag drops and the guy gets his guns back. You know, that's a standing issue that could be hard to get with red flag.
right. Um, so, Douglas Phillips, 24, asked, did they pass the frivolous lawsuit? Yes, they did. That bill absolutely passed, and it is horrible. Um, let's see. So, Mechanic Algamer, I engrave. I'm in Beaver Dam, which is about 30 minutes north of Richmond. You can ship something to me for engraving. I'm sure there's other people that engrave them near you as well. So, and we did go over the mechanics of what you can Form 1 and what you can't Form 1 after the 1st of July earlier in the video if you missed it. Um, what else?
And well, we've warned hunters for years that they're not exempt from
Mm-hmm.
having their guns taken. And indeed, the assault firearm ban goes after shotguns now. If you've got a shotgun that will accept a magazine, a semi-auto and a magazine, you can't buy any of those after July 1 and so forth. They're It's all hands on deck with this stuff. If you own a gun, you need to be in the fight to protect that right for everybody, yourself, your family, the future generations, and just because you're an American, for your fellow Americans.
Yes, absolutely. And
Oh, sorry, I'm going down things that changed.
okay.
The reciprocity. Now
Yes.
Virginia is going to be looking at states by state to decide if their laws are close enough to where we're going to honor their permit. Now, a lot of states have left Virginia in the dust. And this is actually the Republicans are partly to blame for this. Back when Republicans controlled everything, VCDL tried to get a permitless carry thing through, and we couldn't get it out of committee. The committee chair didn't want to do it, and so we couldn't get it out. Flash forward, well, now 29 states have left us in the dust and have permitless carry. So going for us carrying in those states, we're probably going to be okay. It's them carrying here that's going to be a problem. And in some states that don't have permitless, that are we're dependent upon them honoring our permit, like let's say Pennsylvania. There could be a problem there. We may be back to you have to get a Pennsylvania permit to carry in Pennsylvania. We had just fixed that. I have no faith that the Attorney General is going to do the right thing on any of this. I have no faith in him. If he proves me wrong, I'll be happy to apologize, do a mea culpa. But until I see him being fair about this stuff, because what they're looking for is they're looking for a case where they want it so that if I was disqualified from getting a permit in Virginia, I would also be disqualified for the same reasons from getting a permit in Pennsylvania, for example. That's what they're looking for. So if the person couldn't get a Pennsylvania permit, they couldn't get one in Virginia, then they should say, okay, we'll honor that state, because in theory, then nobody from that state that's carrying in Virginia would have been disqualified under Virginia law from doing the same thing. It's all stupid. We know that this doesn't matter. That everywhere concealed carry has been done, it's been successful, completely successful.
Right.
The little differences in the law make no difference at all, none. So this is all political. Payback Bloomberg is what this is.
The other thing that is changing with the concealed carry is that if you are a Virginia resident and you don't have a Virginia concealed handgun permit, but you do have one from another state, it will not be recognized in Virginia. So if you're like a dual resident of Virginia and Florida, and you have a Virginia driver's license, but you also have you live in Florida half the year, and you have a Florida concealed handgun permit that was legal in Virginia, but when this law takes effect, it will no longer cover you in Virginia. You would have to have a Virginia resident permit. And Philip, was there a delayed implementation on that? Am I misremembering?
Yes, it was July. Well, that was one where it was as clear as mud. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the General Assembly of Virginia. Clear as mud. We don't think anything is going to happen until after December 1st of this year. But I think the final implementation of that part you're talking about is July 1 of next year.
Yes.
So we
yes.
have some time to play if that's your situation. I expect that most of you have a Virginia permit. I don't imagine there's very many people that say, well, I'm just going to get Utah and not bother with Virginia. I'm betting that's not, and actually that's not as good it's a good idea to have your Virginia permit. And let me tell you why. Federal law. The Gun-Free School Zone Act, the Federal Gun-Free School Zone Act, another unconstitutional piece of junk, will exempt you if you have a permit from the state the school is in. As far as the feds are concerned, if you've got a permit from the state where the school is, they don't care if you carry into the school. That's why you can carry in schools in Utah if you have a Utah permit. Anybody with a concealed carry permit can carry in a Utah school. The feds don't care as long as you got a permit. So if you're only running on, say, a Utah permit in Virginia, now you've entered the twilight zone, and you want to be careful because technically under federal law you're not exempted from that Gun-Free School Zone Act federally.
Yeah, Richard Jones, we did cover that. You can still buy uppers and things like that and parts. You just can't buy the entire rifle or pistol that's on the list of banned items. So if you have an AR-10, I saw you asked earlier, if you have an AR-10 and you want to put a different upper on it, you can absolutely buy another upper and swap them out. That is not prohibited at this time.
And you mentioned, Pat, that they could have the gun serialized by you if it's a homemade gun. Did you go into? I don't think you mentioned the other details. Let's see. After January 1 of 2027, so coming around in 6 months or so, You cannot buy, sell, or transfer or anything of that nature a gun to be turned into a homemade gun or a homemade gun that is not. You can't buy a new kit, if you will, or begin working on a gun that's not serialized. It's got to be serialized before you put that gun together. And starting July 1 of next year, not this year, 1 year later, you can no longer possess legally an unserialized homemade firearm. If you've got one of those, you've got to get that fixed before July 1 of next year. I would do it as soon as I could. Just get it over with. That's me. I don't want to have to worry about it. Just get it done. If we end up getting that law struck down, oh well, you know. In fact, what's interesting is I believe that the FFL just puts the serial number on and keeps their own record. I think that's all that happens with that.
Sort of.
Okay, explain it.
If it stays overnight, or if you leave it at the FFL, I have to put it on the book.
But if you bring it in that day, make an appointment.
And if you bring it in and it's serialized and you take it back out with you, then I have to keep a record of it, but it does not have to go on my bound book.
Right. So no form, no form to fill out to get your gun back.
If you drop it off and you pick it up, there's no form to fill out anyway. However, the dealers that put things on their bound book are required still to keep it forever, and when they go out of business, they turn that over to the ATF. That's where the problem, that's the sticky wicket there.
So you don't have to do a background check on them then in that case to return the gun to them. It just goes on your books. Okay.
Yeah, and the state law that they passed doesn't say anything about a background check. It just says that it has to be serialized.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, again, it was just so well thought out. We have another question here, unless there's more on the PMFs. Let me see. Joshua Jennings said, we have to mark it with our FFL number. Yes, we have to mark it with the first 3 and last 5 of our FFL number and then a unique identifying number. And there are a lot of FFLs who will not touch a PMF because of liability. Their insurance won't cover it, so on and so forth. So there's very few that will actually do it. So, let's see. Americo Alexandria Andrade said, can you still carry when dropping your kids off in schools in Virginia? Yes, if you stay in your car, your firearm is concealed, and you're in the ingress-egress. So if you just go into the parking lot or the pull around or whatever, your kid gets out and you stay in your car, you're fine. If you have to get out of your car, then that gun has to be unloaded and stowed in a secured compartment, and you can't do that on school property. You would have to actually leave school property, take your gun out of your holster, unload it, put it in the trunk, put the ammo in a separate place in your car, drive back onto the school property, and then go in and get your kid who fell down and broke their leg or whatever.
At a bare minimum, they should get rid of the unloaded. Hell, even Illinois allows you to put your loaded gun in a locked container or at least in a locked car out of sight anywhere, even in all their gun-free zones, including schools. As long as the gun stays in the car, you don't have to unload it. That's when most accidents are likely to happen. Loading and unloading, that is absolutely asinine. And again, put together, I'm sure, by people that don't know which part of a gun the bullet comes out of. Also, I got another one here. Young adults, again, 18 to 20. There is definite misinformation out there. I've caught a few on websites that sell guns are doing their best to kind of let their Virginia customers know the law. The trouble is, a few of them got it wrong. And so I've been correcting them, saying, no, whoa, that's not quite right. Well, we checked with our attorney and said, your attorney's wrong. He didn't look at the final law that went through. So one of the confusing things that come in is that some people were being told that if you're 18 to 20-year-old, you cannot possess a handgun. That is not true. They also, you absolutely can possess. The problem is you can't buy a handgun in Virginia after July 1. But if you've got one already, or if somebody gifted you a gun, got nothing in return, not a sale, a pure gift, the point is, that's how you get it fine, but you can carry and possess that gun, that handgun. So some sites were mistakenly saying no, and that's want to make sure that's clear. We want to protect our young adults so that they don't misunderstand and aren't able to think they're not able to carry a gun when they can.
Yeah, and in all fairness, when these bills were working through the system, they changed so many times, and even Philip and I had a hard time keeping up with them at some points because they would change so much, and they would go through the committee, and then they'd change on the floor, and then they'd go over to the next house, and they'd change again, and then they'd change on the floor there, and then they'd go to conference, and then they'd go to the governor, who changed it again, and then did the General Assembly change it back, or did they leave it that way? So, I mean, it was incredibly, especially this session was probably one of the most confusing sessions as far as keeping up with what was happening with the bills, because it was happening so fast and so furious, and there were just so many of them to keep track of.
And the more reason to be a member of VCDL, because we've got top-notch attorneys, as well as Pat and I and others that have been doing this for so long. About every year, it seems like I learn a new trick that the General Assembly's done, where it's like, what do they do with this?
Right.
And so, but our attorneys, they're top notch. They know this stuff.
Absolutely, and every year we see a new level of stupid too.
Yes, it seems to be a bottomless pit there. So another change was, let's say that somebody at your job got a protective order against you, or something of that nature, a neighbor or something like that. Right now, you could turn your guns over to your spouse, and he or she could lock them up or carry them on her person or his person, and they're fine. Now, even though the problem with the restraining order isn't at home, it's somewhere else, you have to turn your guns over to somebody who's 21 years or older and doesn't live with you. So that's just another thing. So should you find yourself having to turn your guns over temporarily for one reason or another, you can't just turn them over to somebody else. This is really stupid because, like, a felon, there are plenty of people that have a felon in the family, and the wife may have a felon husband. Well, she keeps her guns. She's not been disarmed, but it's her responsibility to make sure he does not have access to them. It doesn't do her any good or him any good to allow that. So that can be done. It is being done. It works just fine. But nope, in this case, again, General Assembly's got to come in and throw their weight around, reminding us that they don't know what they're doing half the time.
Yep. And the more of this stuff, the more of these laws that they pass, the more obvious it becomes. They're turning violent criminals out on the street, and not locking them up or not keeping them locked up for their full terms. And they're disarming good people in so many different ways, and so many more and more creative ways. And it's very obvious that the crime rates will go up. You have more criminals on the street, you have less people able to defend themselves. And
that's the plan.
Then they come back and they say, well, this didn't work, now we have to ban this. And that didn't work, now we have to ban that.
That's the plan. Yes, it is.
Yes. So
they've added simple assault and battery on someone because of their race, religion, gender, whatever. Simple assault or battery takes away your gun rights for 3 years. There's a series of these where you're using misdemeanors, minor crimes that clearly there was no serious harm done. They're using that as an excuse to disarm you. Again, all part of the plan. They're going to take away, you got a Second Amendment right, but try to find somebody that's going to sell you a gun or sell you ammo or sell you a holster or whatever. Oh yeah, you got a Second Amendment right, but you know what? You slapped your sister when you were 18 years old, and so sorry, no guns for you. But you got a Second Amendment right. You got a Second Amendment right, but but you can't own this gun, you can't own that gun, you can't carry this gun anywhere, and you can't carry this gun. Oh, sorry, you got a Second Amendment right, but we got all these gun-free zones, can't carry in any of those. It's just all pointing towards civilian disarmament. That's where it's going. We will not
Hmm.
let them do it to us, but that's the plan, and we cannot back away.
Right. And another thing that they changed was the quote unquote domestic violence. Now they're including somebody that you cohabitated with. So could be just a college buddy that
Hmm.
you lived with for a while and you got in a argument. Maybe there was a big party and you did something stupid, somebody pushed somebody or something like that, or the cops came and broke it up and you got arrested. That can qualify now as a domestic violence charge, or it can prohibit you from purchasing a firearm for the rest of your life.
Did Pat? Did you answer the one from David
David
MW?
saw, and
Yeah,
yeah, we answered that like 4 or 5 times.
yeah.
If it's a grandfathered item, in other words, it's one of the banned items, you owned it before July 1st, and your form wanting it after July 1st, you can. If you are creating a new banned item, you cannot. NFA items are not excluded from the bill. So,
No, what scares me about all of this is, can you imagine how many people out there are confused right now over this stuff that again aren't members, don't know where to go. They've heard this, they've heard that.
mhm,
I'm just thinking, man, they've changed so many laws, and
right.
they're subtle. There's bad information out there. Not that people are trying to put out bad information, like you said, Pat. It's confusing the way it went.
Mhm,
I'm just sitting here going, man, I'm thinking some people are going to end up getting in trouble,
mhm.
either getting in trouble and not realizing that they're breaking a new law, or not carrying because they think they can't carry, or whatever. It's frustrating. This is a mess. So,
Mhm.
those of you out there that are listening to this, know where the information is. Keep your eyes and ears open when you're talking to people. If you're hearing bad information, correct them. Make sure that people understand what the law is and what it isn't.
Right.
So I think
And
that would be useful.
you can send them to our website. Under the resources tab, there is a link to the 2026 legislative changes, and there's a whole bunch of how does this affect me questions. And so send them to our website. Suggest that they at least subscribe to our free emails, but if they care anything at all about any of their rights, because the Second Amendment is the one right that protects all of the other rights, they should spend $25 a year on a VCDL membership. I mean, that's less than a large Supreme pizza, for Christ's sake. So,
Uh,
and
exactly.
it, if we don't work now to protect our freedom that our forefathers fought and died and gave up everything they had for, this country and its 250th birthday this year is in severe danger of expiring. The way of life that
Exactly.
we know, the freedom that we enjoy, we are the last bastion on earth of that freedom. And it is our duty to stand up and protect it. So we cannot say, hide behind a bush and say, I'm not going to tell somebody I own a gun because it might scare them, or they might think that I'm weird or something. We need to make guns normal again.
Yeah,
They
make
were
guns
normal
great
for,
again.
yes, they were normal part of everyday life for 220, 230 years, and it's only recently that people who would steal our freedom have been mounting this concerted effort to demonize freedom, and the Second Amendment, the ability to keep and bear arms, is the only way to protect that freedom.
Steve Black says some of us are just not going to comply. I understand. We'll get stuff out of state and bring it back in unless they put up checkpoints at every border crossing. Who's going to know? Couple thoughts on that. Number one, if you want to buy a new assault firearm, that's not going to work unless you not a new one. If you want to go out of state and do some kind of a private transaction in the state that allows that and bring it back, that's
can't do that. Federal law.
Federal law kicks in.
Yes.
But if you're not, but you have to understand, you can't go to a dealer in North Carolina, buy a nice AR and bring it back to Virginia, because I mentioned this earlier, but you may have missed it. The dealer, wherever you are, whatever state you're in, doesn't matter. They automatically check Virginia law since you're a Virginia resident, and they won't sell you something that's illegal in Virginia. So you won't be able to won't help you to be out of state. You cannot buy an AR from a dealer out of state. You can't get around that. Now, magazines, yeah, you could go to North Carolina. You could buy some 20-round magazines with cash, throw the receipt in the trash and throw the box in the trash, put the magazines in your car, and who's going to know? No, virtually nobody. That's non-compliance. But if something somehow went wrong, could you be charged? Yes, you could. But that's part of civil disobedience, is accepting the fact that there could be a penalty. But you're willing to take that chance because you want to exercise your rights that you feel are unconstitutionally being attacked. And I completely understand that's a very personal decision, and it's totally up to you what you want to do with that. I get it. I just wanted to point out, though, that part of it you're stuck with because dealers fall under this stuff, and there's no easy way for them to wiggle out.
Right.
To do so is to put their whole livelihood in severe jeopardy, and they're not going to do it, and it's not fair to even ask them to do it. That's totally wrong to ask them to do something like that for you.
Well,
so keep that in mind.
It's not just their livelihood, it's the livelihood of everybody that works for them, and the penalties are much higher for a dealer that willfully does something like that than it is for an individual that maybe didn't know that's making a private sale of a firearm to somebody that's not a resident of the state they live in is a felony. We did have a couple of questions I wanted to get real quick. Marco Polo says he's still confused about what I can have, like going to the range, an outdoor range, and the rules about public roads scare me. So do you want to take that one?
Well, again, as long as the AR, AK, whatever assault firearm is unloaded, locked up out of reach, ammo separate, locked out of reach, then you're transporting the gun. Transporting is legal. They just don't want you to have rapid access to it, even if it's not loaded. They don't want it within your wingspan. They don't want it where it's not locked up in something and you can basically grab it. That's considered carrying the gun. Even if it's not physically on you, it's within your reach. You're in control of it quickly. That's carrying. That you can't do with the AR, AK, and so forth. So you're fine. You're good. Just lock the gun in the trunk, unloaded, ammo separate, or in the back of the SUV in a locked container. It's out of reach.
But you can use it at the range.
You can use it at the range. You can use it on your friend's property. You can use it on your property. You
can't go marching down the street with it slung over your back, is what they're saying.
Yeah.
T-Birder V8 says, clarification on a question, is assembling a banned firearm with parts you already own before July 1st, can it be assembled after July 1st? No. According to the law, no. You must build it before the 1st of July.
Then you can modify it however you want. Right. It's got to be an assault firearm before July 1. If it wasn't technically an assault firearm and you added the stuff to make it one after July 1, that's a problem.
Yes. So, how would they know? I don't know, but that's what the law says. So
yeah, we want you to know the law. It's up to you if you think that it doesn't, that you don't want to honor it. That's up to you. But we want to make sure you know the law.
And GS Bomber says AR-15s don't have to be secured and unloaded in your car. No, yes, they do.
They do.
So when you're transporting them, they need to be in a case or something, or secured and unloaded. And Jaime Chris, I don't know if I said that right, said no more pistols on the dashboard. Please don't put your pistol on your dashboard.
Yeah.
The having to leave it visible in the car went away 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
Or longer.
Or maybe more. Yeah. VCDL
Yeah.
got that done. You can have it in a closed compartment or container.
Yes.
By the way, that provides an interesting exemption. I have what you'd call a PDW. Some of you do as well. The PDW being basically a pistol with some accoutrements like an arm brace and maybe a barrel shroud and so forth. In my case, I have a SIG that basically is in that configuration. It's like twin magazines. And anyhow, those, since it's a pistol, but it's also an assault firearm because it's got, the brace and it's got the barrel shroud and all that stuff. But it's a PDW, so a pistol that's got special attributes that makes it very useful for self-defense. Personal defense weapon is what PDW stands for. You could have that loaded, but it's in the car with you because it is a handgun. But it has to be in an enclosed compartment or container. So the only way I could transport it on public roads would be to put it in a closed compartment or container in my vehicle. I couldn't have it laying on the seat next to me. It could be in a closed compartment or container next to me and loaded, but not out of that compartment or container. And the compartment or container doesn't have to be locked, but it's got to be at least latched. So that's, again, the merging of two laws that made an exception for PDWs. They don't call that in the law, but that's what it boils down to: a handgun that's also an assault firearm.
Okay, so we had quite a few questions come in. Marco Polo follow-up. I was asking about 30-round magazines going to the range with the AR. If you already own the 30-round magazines, you can take them to the range. Not a problem. And so Sawman Dave said if you have a 100% receiver, so an actual firearm receiver, then, and it's serialized, I can't legally have it put together after July 1. If you can find a way to build it in a configuration that is outside of their definition of the assault firearm, then you can build it. So if it's a bolt action, the bans only cover semi-autos. So if it's a bolt action, then you can build it as a bolt action AR, and it can have all of the same scary features, except that you have to actually manually do the bolt.
Yeah, and they do make guns where you just pull back. They make a special bolt that you just pull straight back. You don't have to use the charging handle. You actually have a bolt handle on the side that works.
Yep. And Jaime asked, are P320s still legal? Yes.
Sure.
Standard pistols are still legal. Magazine capacity will be restricted to 15 rounds or less. I guess somebody took a shoe off when they were counting fingers and toes.
But that's only buying them after July 1. You can carry as big a magazine as you want if you own it before July 1. So again, I plan on carrying 17 round. I might want to carry a 25 round. It's all just fine and dandy after July 1 on a regular handgun.
And Rich says, so if I leave, I guess it's AR to a grandchild over 18, you can go out and buy magazines for it as long as it's under 15 round capacity.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
15 or under. 15's okay.
You can buy magazines for your underage, your 2-year-old grandchild now that are 30 round magazines and give them to them. There is no age limit on magazines. And then when they are old enough for you to actually give them the firearm, they already have the magazines for them. So if you plan ahead a little bit, you eliminate that problem.
GS bomber closed container like a backpack. Yeah, that would can be considered a closed container while you're in the car. Now, again, where it gets a little tricky is getting out of the car in public. As long as you're getting out of the car in private, like your house or whatever, then yeah, you can just take the backpack and take it in the house with you. But while you're on the public roads, public anything, that gun would have that PDW would have to stay in that backpack.
Yes, and Marco Polo is asking, I joined it late. One big question, is there an approved handgun list that would be permitted for purchase like the one in California? Oh my goodness, I
No,
hope
oh
not.
good no. But here's the deal. Here's the deal. When you go to buy, like, okay, let's say you're going to buy a SIG P365 macro. That's a gun that right now, if you go to the store and buy it, it comes with two 17-round magazines standard. What the difference is, you'll still be able to buy that same exact gun, but instead of coming with 17-round magazines, it's going to come with two 10-round magazines.
Right.
Now, if
They
you
don't
already
make,
own, yeah,
right,
they don't make a 15-round for that gun.
not for the macro or the
Right.
AXG. They do, and I actually have some coming for the 365, the X, and the XL. They brought back, SIG actually brought back the 15-round magazines because of Virginia, but they won't fit the Legion or the macro.
Right. So, and there is a solution for the 15-round for that, but right now, so let's just say you wanted to buy a 365 macro, but you haven't gotten it yet. You can buy it whenever you want. You can buy it in August if you want, but get the 17-round magazines for it now. Go ahead and buy those. Then when you get the gun, it comes with 10 rounds. Set them aside and use your 17-round. Just perfectly legal to do that. So no, average guns still going to be available. No list. It's just that they won't be coming with their normal standard capacity. They're going to be coming with 10 or maybe 12 or 15, anything 15 or below, whatever the manufacturer has, that's what they're going to come with. And you're stuck with that if you haven't bought a larger magazine for that particular gun, but before July 1.
All right, so Boomy78, just to clarify, if I have a few AR lowers, I can still buy the rest of the parts to assemble the AR-15, correct? Sort of. You can buy the parts, but you cannot legally create the assault firearm after June 30th. You need to build them out before the end of the month. So buy your parts and create your firearms now so that they're grandfathered in. And then if you want to buy different uppers or different stocks or different handguards or whatever you want to do later, you can do that. But you cannot manufacture a new assault firearm after June 30th. So hopefully we will get the injunction. We are filing for the mandamus hearing Monday morning. The papers are ready to go in. There's also an injunction hearing scheduled Wednesday in Spotsylvania.
And then another one like the 24th or something, I can't remember, in Washington County.
Like that. Right. So there's 3 different hearings, hopefully, at least 2, hopefully 3 different hearings for an injunction coming up before the end of the month. So hopefully we will win that. Even if we don't win the injunction, we will vehemently fight this legislation, especially starting with the ban bills. And our case is the only one that also addresses the carry ban as well as the purchase ban. So we are going to have to wrap up pretty soon here. We've been on an hour and 45 minutes.
It's just been members, and everybody's got so many questions. We're happy to answer them. We hate to keep everybody up late, but on the other hand, some people have stepped out. They have to get up in the morning. You're always free to do that.
Right. And If you tuned in late, go back and listen to what the parts that you missed, because we did cover a lot of things. And
Yeah.
you can always reach out to VCDL. Again, go to our website, click on resources, and click the 2026 legislative changes, and you'll find a lot of the answers to your questions there. If you don't find them there, hit us up. We'll be happy to answer. Check your membership and make sure that you are current, because we need all of y'all's help in fighting these bills. It's incredibly expensive, and we have a lot of cases coming up. And we're still fighting cases from 2020.
Yes, we've got the one handgun a month is out there, but also the rest areas and ABC store bans. Really? You're telling me a retail store is a sensitive government location? Give me a break. Or restrooms. Let's see, who was this that mentioned Rich B? If every member would send an extra $25, would that be a big boost of legal expense? Absolutely.
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 Yeah.
Yes, it would. That would add up.
And remember the 501c3, the foundation. So if you have an employer that matches charitable contributions, or if you are on Facebook, the very anti-2A Facebook, you can name the VCDF for your birthday wish or whatever fundraiser on Facebook, and make Facebook give VCDL money or VCDF money. So I think the first year we got the foundation established, I raised like $2,500 for my birthday wish for VCDF. So,
yeah, it was nice.
Yeah. Anyway,
Jimmy Ray says, so once we fight these and win, can we sue the so-called lawmakers and introduce them? No. Oh, I wish.
Yes.
But no, you don't think lawmakers would ever let themselves, they make the laws. They're not going to, I wish. Some of them so deserve it. Oh,
better
they so
than
deserve
suing
it.
them. 2027, the entire House and Senate is up for election.
Kick them out.
Start finding people now to run against these clowns and to get into office, and campaign for those people and donate to their campaigns or donate to the PAC, and educate the public on why this is so important. We're here because whether it was the Never Trumpers, whether it was the My Vote Doesn't Count people, whatever it was, people did not turn out to vote in 2025, and the turnout was pitiful. Yeah. And so we ended up with a rabidly anti-gun Senate, House, and governor. And VCDL PAC were saying the whole time, get out and vote. Drag your neighbors kicking and screaming if you have to, and get them down to the polls. People didn't show up. Somebody else made the decisions for us, and here we are.
Yeah, the other side loves it when we say, oh, the elections are rigged. I'm not going to vote. No, they love that. That's music to the gun control crowd. Mm-hmm. Wow. Yep, the gun rights people aren't going to vote because the elections are rigged. No. I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. You've got to get out and vote. That's just an excuse in my eyes to not vote. Even if they were rigged, get out and vote anyhow. I don't think they're rigged. But don't use that as an excuse to sit at home. I'm not buying it. If I buy the bolt assembly or trigger for an AR-15, can I do that after July 1st? Yes.
Yeah.
As long as you had that AR, as long as you had an assault rifle, you can buy parts for it before July 1. You can buy parts after July 1. You can buy a new trigger. You can buy a new collapsible stock. You can buy a new threaded barrel. All of that's fine and dandy. But legally, you can't create a new AR from nothing or a new assault firearm. Of course, if you do, how are they going to know? But whatever.
Jeremy Hilliard says elections are rigged and it's not going to work. Well, I mean, on the off chance, supposing what you're saying is accurate, on the off chance that it will work, show up anyway. What does it cost you? 15 minutes?
Yeah. Well, yeah, really? Yeah, exactly. I mean, if enough people show up, even if it were rigged, there's a limit to what they can rig. They call it too big to rig. If we had showed up in full numbers, they couldn't have come up with enough fake votes to stop us. So no, I do not buy that. I don't accept that. We need to vote.
if you're concerned that there's shenanigans going on in your um, jurisdiction, go down and become an election official. Get involved in the system and make sure that it's not rigged. So, um, you know, we have to take this back. We have to be a part of um, the whole process. And you know, I tell Philip all the time, I hate politics. Absolutely hate politics. But if you're not involved in that, it will totally run your life. There's people making laws that can put you in jail and cost you tons of money and cost you your freedom. So if you're not involved in that process, then you have no control over it whatsoever. The only way to have control is to get involved. And you have the most control at your local government level. So your school boards, your board of supervisors, your city councils. And then at the state level, you still have control. The vast majority of gun control is passed at the state level, not the federal level.
And
we're
look,
seeing
you
it
know,
in spades.
we got three Republicans in top offices the last election before last. If things are rigged, how the hell did they get in? You know, you know, and they're again, there may be some stuff going on. I don't doubt that there are some things being done that are untoward. And those people need to go to jail for a very long time. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but on the other hand, you cannot let that say don't. You know, I think you mentioned it's okay to vote. Well, yeah, vote. Understand that we have to do that. Otherwise, what's the alternative? If you sit at home, then you're absolutely letting somebody else make decisions for you.
Right.
So now, got to vote. Got to get friends out to vote. We need to get hunters off their butts and get them out voting. If they did, that's a big block. If they would show up, they could really get things rolling. But again, the other side counts on them not being active, and it works for them. We don't want that. We want that to end.
Right. And there's a lot of people that are investigating election fraud, and you know, it's obviously a possibility. But the more involved you are in the process, the less easy it is for people to commit election fraud. So get involved, stay engaged, talk to people, and stay educated. You know, VCDL members are some of the most educated people I've seen as far as Second Amendment rights and so forth. So we really do, good Lord, we're almost 2 hours. Do appreciate you people being here. Sasquatch Strength, whatever. the Roanoke Park ban, the case is ongoing in Roanoke.
Yeah.
So there will be updates. It
shows you how long.
Yeah. There will be updates when we have something to let you know, but it's still in process. And freedom is only ever one generation away from extinction. And right to these days, it's only ever one election away from extinction. You know, we saw that this year. So anyway, we really do need to let people go. And I want to thank all of you for stopping in tonight. Your questions were great. Thanks for spending a Sunday evening with us, and I hope that this helps you out. Again, go back and listen to whatever you missed, share it with your friends and your family, and suggest to them that they get involved with VCDL and get involved with protecting their rights. So anything else from you, Philip, or?
No, we'll have an alert sometime tomorrow, just covering some of the things we've covered here tonight. But we'll have an alert going out, especially getting the new Commonwealth attorney on board. Now we're sitting at 16 Commonwealth attorneys in our favor, and that big win that engaged in the business is now gone, so we don't have to worry about being falsely charged for being a dealer just because you sold a gun. So that's a big win.
All right. Thanks again, folks, and I wish you all a great evening, and enjoy and get all your guns before the the end
Yeah.
of the month.
And share this with your friends. I can listen to it on the way to and from work. They don't have to watch anything. They can listen to the, so they're up on the laws. Okay, y'all
Yes.
have a good night.
Good night, y'all. Thanks for watching and bye.